Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Superheroes, Movies, and Superhero Movies. Today we're going to talk about Batman from 1989, directed by Tim Burton, starring Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, Kim Basinger, Robert Wuhl, Billy D. Williams. That's about it, right?
Jack Palance.
Oh, Jack Palance, of course. Forgot about Jack Palance. This movie came out, like I said, in 1989. I got to see it when I was a kid. It came out in the summer, probably around May or June, I want to say. So I was about 5 years old, hadn't yet turned 6, and I was lucky enough to get to see it in the theater. And I still remember it. I remember sitting in the theater watching the movie. And so...
Unlike me, I did not get to see it in the theater. But, boy, did I watch it after it came out on VHS.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised I didn't wear the VHS down with how many times I watched it. I still have the VHS, actually.
My mom actually recorded it to a blank VHS because of the darkness of it and the language and stuff.
TV version of it?
She edited parts of it out.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't see the full version until probably I was like 10 or 11.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, it was crazy. Because we just had, the VHS, so if I ever wanted to watch Batman, I just pop that in.
Do you remember what scenes she cut out specifically?
I remember several.
Okay.
And it was really weird seeing them. It was like seeing an extended version.
Right.
Except
like deleted
with
scenes added
crucial
back into the movie.
parts.
Right.
The first one I remember is him shooting Eckhart.
Okay.
That was
Did you
gone.
cut that part out?
Yeah. A lot of that scene was taken out. I don't know if I think she cut out when Batman was holding. Yeah, that's right. This is coming back to me. She cut out the part where he's holding on to Jack Napier, Batman, trying to keep him from going into the chemicals.
Right.
That whole part was gone. So basically, in my version, he's like, nice outfit. And then he's in the pool.
you just imagined he tripped and fell or something.
But a 5-year-old, I was...
It didn't matter.
It made no sense to me. I was just staring at this gigantic Batman. And so...
No, absolutely. And even me having seen the whole thing, I think even a 5-year-old mind doesn't really put all the pieces together anyway. You're just enjoying seeing Batman.
Yeah,
so.
Over the years, about the same time I saw the full version, you actually started seeing more about what the movie was, and it wasn't just a kid enjoying seeing Batman.
Right.
Another scene the other one I'll mention that's crucial.
Before you begin, I just want to put it out there. I always forget to do this right away. If you haven't seen Batman, we're going to talk about the entire movie, so you'll want to obviously go see Tim Burton's Batman before you listen to this whole thing, but if you haven't seen Batman yet, what are you waiting on? It's been 20 years. Come on.
Good call, because the scene I'm about to say, if you haven't seen it, is a big one. But who hasn't seen Batman?
Well, that's what I was just thinking, but...
Anyway. She cut out the Joker falling off the building.
No way, really?
Yeah. Now, granted, I did see him lose his grip from Batman's hand. Okay. But I did not see the falling. So that was really weird to see the first time I saw it.
At the end of the movie, you're talking?
Yes.
Batman wasn't holding on to him at the end of the movie. He fell off the helicopter, the ladder.
That's right. Yeah. When he falls, though, you see his hand slip, and then it cuts to...
I gotcha.
So I did see that.
Precise editing skills, then.
No, she was good. She did a lot of our family videos. So she had... I also had an edited version of Ghostbusters.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I remember when I was in 3rd grade, some of my friends were talking about the Batman movie, and they talked about when it shows the Joker falling, about how you see him falling. And I was like, what? It doesn't show him falling. You just see his hand slip, and then he's on the ground. And then I think shortly after, that's when I saw the scene.
Right. That's also probably about the time you realized your mom was editing movies for you.
No, I mean, she had told me that she had taken it out because some of the sentences, too, would be kind of weird. You know, when they'd say a cuss word or whatever.
Sure.
And I really wish, since you brought up that you still have the VHS, I wish I could grab that edited version and go back and watch it.
And watch it again. That would be fun. I remember my dad had to go preview it in the theater first. When he came home, he told me and my mom that it was fine, and so we went and saw it in the theater. And I don't remember if my siblings came, but I'm sure they did. I don't think they would have been left home. Although, maybe my sister would have been like 3, so it's possible my mom stayed home with my sister, or maybe my dad stayed home with my sister since he already saw it. I don't know.
I do remember the buzz of that movie, even though I didn't get to see it in the theater. I think I remember seeing on the news, they showed like the line that was going around the theater. It was a big deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. I remember seeing posters for it, and I remember the Taco Bell cups, like I said, I still have. So I remember seeing like advertisements for it, but I don't really remember seeing a big buzz about it.
I don't remember seeing any trailers on television, but I do remember when the movie came out, too, there was a lot of merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing Batman everywhere. That's probably one of the things that... Also, around that time, too, I don't remember what channel it was on, but they were playing the 60s Batman show.
Oh, nice, yeah.
On television. And I would watch that, like, all the time. So Batman was gigantic for you. Probably the first big thing that I was ever into.
Right. I do remember some of the merchandise around the movie, though, because I had a few of the toys. I had this awesome... I promise we'll talk about the movie soon. But I had this awesome Joker toy where if you dip his head... It started off... He looked just like the Joker. He had the white makeup with the red lips and the green hair. But if you dipped his head into ice-cold water, he would put like the skin-colored makeup, on. So it had like the
yeah.
I guess he looked
like his makeup.
Right, yeah. That he wears like in the scene with them at the
I think
museum.
I remember that toy now that you mentioned it. I'd totally forgotten about that.
Yeah. I still have it somewhere. It's somewhere in, I think, my parents' attic.
I had the Joker van.
Oh, really? That's
I had the
cool.
Joker van. I had the Batmobile.
Yeah.
And I got the Batwing for Christmas, but I also got a bicycle, and I think they ended up taking back the Batwing.
Oh, that's unfortunate. The Batwing is the only vehicle I had. I wanted the Batmobile. I probably wanted the Joker van. I probably wanted it all.
I still have the Joker van, actually.
Do you really?
It's pretty. Yeah, that's some gold right there.
I'm actually. This kind of shows you how much of a nerd I am. I've gone back over the years and purchased the Batmobiles that I didn't have. So I have now a Batmobile from each movie. Because I'm sad to say, even when Batman and Robin came out, I still bought up all the toys. And so I have the Batman and Robin Batmobile, the Batman Forever Batmobile. And those are the two I had when the movies came out originally. And then I had to go back and buy the Batmobile that I always wanted, which is the one from Batman Returns, where the two sides pop off and it becomes like the Bat Missile. I had to get it off eBay. And the same with the original Batmobile. I got that off eBay as well, I believe.
I have not seen my Batmobile in a long time. I don't remember when the last time I saw it was. I don't know what happened to it.
It comes with that plastic cover that goes over it that looks like the shields.
Yes.
Which is cool.
I forgot about that.
So, obviously we have some good memories of this movie. Jumping into the movie itself, this was the quintessential Batman movie for me for a long time. Obviously, before Batman Begins and The Dark Knight came out, I didn't think anything could beat this movie. I thought this was going to be the best Batman movie. And I still really enjoy it, even having watched it again. I watched it just today, and
right,
I still really like it, but it's hard to compare to Christopher Nolan's Batman movies because he created such a different world.
Right.
So,
I don't remember the last time that I watched it. It hadn't been too long ago before I rewatched it last night. And I definitely saw more than I'd ever seen before, a lot more Hollywood.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I've never had to watch it before, actually looking at how the movie is. I've just always watched it to enjoy it.
Sure.
And I felt like this time I was seeing... First of all, you could tell it had a 90s feel to it. Even though it came out in 89. Just the way movies were done then. And it's kind of weird how much that's changed. And we've kind of transitioned into it really...
Gradually.
Yeah. So I didn't even really realize the difference until I watched how Batman was done.
Right.
Totally different than anything that's done today.
But I think that's part of its charm as well, I like that, a lot of movies have CG today, which is kind of a whole different discussion that we could get into about the use of CG or the overuse of CG. But this movie, is a time where that hadn't become the norm yet. And so... Right. It is a lot of practical stuff, and some of it is easy to kind of spot now, especially now that we're older and the movie is over 20 years old now. I think one of the most noticeable things is the first time you see Batman in the very beginning of the movie, you see his shadow, and he hears the woman screaming, and he turns around and he goes into it almost looks like a cathedral, but it goes into the building, and it's very, very obvious, like an animated shadow. And now they would have just done that with computers. But it was interesting to see how they had to do it back then. Right.
And I think it's cool that they still have that in the current versions.
Yeah, I hope they don't ever put out like a special edition where they kind of Lucas it up,
Right. I was referring more to the extras and stuff.
Oh, okay.
It's hard to explain. They just, you could tell they were almost on set. A lot more when you're looking at it than you can in today. I think film was being taken seriously then, but I think today it's almost taken. I mean,
even more seriously.
Yeah, it's like people really.
Well, there's this like real big push, and especially in comic book movies, and I think Christopher Nolan is. Maybe a big reason for this. There's a push to be real. There has to be a realism to everything now.
Exactly, which is good.
Right? No, that's true. You could get away with stuff a little bit more in the 90s and the 80s in terms of action movies. And
right,
things
you're
like that.
You guys stand back here in the background, and they're just kind of like looking around and everything.
Right.
It's like someone said. Action, and they're now reacting to that.
Right. No, you're right. So it's good that it's changed, but at the same time, I think that this movie does a good job of kind of blending a comic book, fictional world with, I wouldn't say the real world, but a form of reality almost.
Right.
Because it's not. This is like the first dark Batman. And to my knowledge, that had ever come out. Before that, we had, like you said, the 60s Batman, the Adam West Batman, which was very campy, very comic book, or very comedy, really almost based.
No, you did have the Dark Knight Returns. Or the Dark...
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So in print form, there was the Dark Knight Returns. But as far as I know, in the regular mainstream comics, Batman was still wearing the blue and gray suit.
Right. And in the Dark Knight Returns, he had gray too, didn't he?
He did have gray, but I think it was black and gray.
Right.
But anyway, to my knowledge, this was like the darkest probably version of Batman that had come out, and aside from perhaps the Dark Knight Returns.
Right. And I think Tim Burton actually drew inspiration from the Dark Knight Returns, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I think so too. I mean, he alludes to it even with the, Vicky Vale takes pictures of the Corto Maltese.
Right.
And that was something that was in The Dark Knight Returns. I did a little research on it. It was actually, there's a comic book, a European comic book called Corto Maltese. So it's, I think Frank Miller maybe put that in Dark Knight Returns as kind of a nod to that comic book, that European comic book.
Right.
But then Tim Burton, I think, put it in the movie as a nod, or the screenwriters did, to a nod to Dark Knight Returns.
I gotcha. Or because Tim Burton is a big art fanatic.
Maybe, yeah, it's true.
That's how I took it. Because, I mean, he is.
I mean, he started off as an illustrator. He worked for Disney for a while. He was an animator.
Right.
And so I think he does do a lot of his own kind of concept art.
And his claymation stuff,
films.
I mean, that's...
Mm-hmm.
I think he has a connection with that and paintings and stuff. So
there was a Tim Burton exhibit here at the LACMA here in Hollywood, or down in Los Angeles, that I never got to see, and I really wish I had. I think it would have been really cool. They did a Kubrick one recently that I did get to see, and that one was awesome. It made me really wish I had seen the Tim Burton one. But, oh well. I wish I could kind of go back in time and be a fly on the wall in Warner Brothers when this movie was kind of being talked about. Because I don't know, I wonder if Tim Burton, fought for the chance to direct it, or if he was offered the gig. Because before that, Tim Burton had only really directed Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Beetlejuice, which don't really scream... I mean, maybe Beetlejuice did really well. I don't know the numbers on that, but I wonder...
Beetlejuice, I believe, was pretty successful, but yeah. I don't think it was successful enough for them to throw him Batman.
Right, so I'm wondering how that all came about. I wonder if he had ideas for it that he approached the studio about, or I wonder if this script had been written and they approached him to direct it.
Right. I don't know, but the only other super movie that we had before this was Superman, the Superman movies.
Right, which had... the last one had come out in 86, I want to say, or 87, which was only 2 years before, but...
Was that 4?
I think people had kind of gotten tired of it by that point.
Was that Superman 4?
Yeah. Superman 4, which is considered the worst.
I've actually never seen Superman 4.
Well, you're not missing a whole lot. Superman 3 and 4 are actually both really bad.
I've seen... I remember segments from 3. I don't know if I've ever seen it all the way through. Oh, speaking of Superman... When I popped in Batman last night, my second youngest, he's a big Superman fan, and he knew we were watching. He knew we were watching Batman, and he looked at me. I don't remember. He was like kind of emotional about something at the time, but he saw Batman was on, and he looked at me almost like he was about to cry, and he's like, "Dad, is Superman in this?" And it made me realize.
He said no.
I said no, but it made me realize he will be in a couple years.
Yeah,
which was really cool to think about.
Yeah, we could talk about this at the end if you want, but I want to hear your thoughts on some of the casting rumors that are out there right now.
Okay.
So, but we'll save that for the end of the discussion, I suppose. Let's go back to Michael Keaton as Batman, who, by the way. Again, I thought there could be no better Batman, Michael Keaton was Batman to me for the longest time. There were things that were good about Val Kilmer, and there were things that were good about George Clooney as Bruce Wayne. I don't think George Clooney was a very good Batman, necessarily, but I think Michael Keaton was the best.
I actually think growing up I liked Val Kilmer better. Looking, now, Michael Keaton, of course. I don't know. I guess he had the younger look. He had a little bit of a cooler look.
Val Kilmer?
Yeah.
I remember, too, Bob Kane, who was still alive back then, was on the set of Batman Forever. And I don't remember if I read this in a magazine or if I saw a behind-the-scenes thing, but he said Val Kilmer was the closest to Bruce Wayne. It was closest to how he envisioned Bruce Wayne when he first started drawing the comics back in the 30s.
Wow.
Or 40s.
And he probably wouldn't even brought that up if he didn't resemble him. So, that's saying a lot. Mm-hmm. Because saying you're the closest looking doesn't necessarily mean that you look like him, but I doubt he would have even brought it up unless he actually looked like Bruce Wayne.
Right. So I agree that Val Kilmer definitely had a good look to him, and he played Bruce Wayne fine. And he played Batman fine. It's just, I've always liked Michael Keaton's performance just a little bit better.
Oh yeah, Michael Keaton's great.
But it makes me think that Bob Kane didn't really approve maybe of Michael Keaton being cast. I mean, maybe he didn't disapprove, but he just thought he probably had the same reaction. I remember my dad told me when I was a kid. This was actually around this had to have been mid-'90s when I was talking to my dad about this, because it was around the time Nicolas Cage was going to play Superman in Tim Burton's Superman movie, if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember coming to my dad going, they're going to cast Nicolas Cage as Superman? And I was kind of, I guess, was just like, thought it was the dumbest thing at the time. And my dad was like, well, you know, I remember when they announced Michael Keaton was going to play Batman, and I thought to myself, Michael Keaton is going to play Batman? And then he ended up being awesome. So
Yeah.
I don't think that would have happened with Nicolas Cage and Superman, but
I felt like Michael Keaton
you never know.
kind of fell off the map.
After Batman Returns?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he maybe got kind of typecasted as Batman or what, but you're right. He had a few movies after he did Batman Returns, but and he's kind of starting to come back now a little bit, which is nice.
Which I'm really happy about.
Yeah, he's done a few movies.
Part of me wants to see, even though I know I'd regret it if it happened, part of me wants to see another Beetlejuice.
And they're talking about that, actually.
Right.
There's like a Beetlejuice
which scares
2 in the
me.
works. Yeah, it scares me too, because the guy that's writing it, I think his name is Seth Grahame-Smith, he wrote Dark Shadows, which is a Tim Burton Johnny Depp movie. And I don't know if you saw that, but it was not good.
I did not see it.
So I was even more worried for Beetlejuice 2 after I saw Dark Shadows. But who knows? Maybe it'll come to fruition and be good. But, I mean, Michael Keaton is now in his 60s. So it'd be very interesting to see a 60-year-old Beetlejuice.
Right. So, back to the movie. And like you said, you see the animation shadow.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes to the reveal of Batman, where you've got the muggers going through the wallet and talking about all the rumors about.
Right, that was kind of cool hearing about Batman before you, or knowing that there was like these whispers about this creature or person out there. That was neat.
Yeah.
I have actually a question about the opening scene, and that is, I wonder if there was some confusion, because the first thing we see in the movie is a mom, a dad, and a son. I wonder if people... I remember, it didn't occur to me when I was 5, because I knew about Batman, but I'm wondering how much I really knew about Batman when I was that age. Did I know that his parents were murdered when he was a child and things like that? Or if he was just a superhero, That's probably... I'm assuming I just knew of the superhero and I didn't really know anything about his history or anything. So I wonder if there were any Batman fans out there who, when the movie started, they assumed that was Bruce Wayne. Until they heard him say, I know he says Jimmy or something in the scene, but at first, especially because the Monarch Theater is right in the background.
I bet you're right. I never thought about that before, and they don't show the shadow of Batman until after they get the gun pulled on them.
Right.
So,
but he does say, I think diehard Batman fans will know right away that Bruce Wayne's father's name is Thomas, and she says to him Harold, because they're trying to get a taxi, and she says his name Harold, and then I think he calls the son Jimmy. Jimmy put that away. We look like tourists.
I got you.
So I think pretty early on they realized that it's not Bruce Wayne.
I would say when it was made, the rule of making sure the names were correct, of course, except Bruce Wayne, were not as adhered important to as they are today.
Right, that's very true. I mean, the fact that they gave Joker an origin in this movie.
Right. And his name's Jack Napier.
Evidence to that. Right, exactly. But anyway, that just occurred to me this last time I watched it, because I think in the comics, Bruce Wayne and his parents are leaving the Mark of Zorro that they went and saw at the Monarch Theater. And this movie opens up and we see a young boy and his parents walking near the Monarch Theater. And so I wondered if that was just kind of... I wonder if that was something to throw people off. They expected to see... for the movie to start off with the murder of the Waynes, and then it wasn't that, and Batman was already existing, or if that wasn't even thought of. It was just a way to start the movie, and it just happened to be a boy and his parents.
Also, you have Batman observing something that happened to him. And
that's true.
So, it's kind of a bit of a thorn. Mm-hmm. Bit of a sting.
Oh, of course.
So, instead of, he fights him, holds the guy over the side of the building, and you don't know if he's going to drop him or not.
Right.
But he doesn't, so you see that Batman is not a murderer, or at least yet. And that was smart, too. He's like, I want you to tell all your friends about me.
Yeah.
Why do you think he said that? Why did he want all the bad guys to know he was around?
I think he was trying to instill fear in them.
Right.
Beat up a few thugs. I mean, that one guy had to be carried away on a stretcher, so we didn't necessarily see a brutal beatdown, but it makes me wonder how badly he kind of supposedly beat up these guys. And so he probably didn't even need to say, tell all your friends about me, but I think that's what he was trying to do, was kind of spark this fear throughout Gotham City that there is this person out there and he's a force to be reckoned with.
Let's talk about the introduction of Jack Napier.
Okay. I think the first time we see him, he's watching TV, right?
Yeah, he's watching a press conference or some kind of event with political agendas.
Mm-hmm. Harvey Dent's there.
Right. Who's played by Billy D. Williams. No, wasn't it?
It was Billy D. Williams, yeah.
Okay.
I'm curious how Billy D. Williams' Two-Face would have been. Because I know that he accepted the role with the intention that he was going to play Two-Face in the future, in a sequel. It's interesting to me, though, that he wasn't even in Batman Returns. So it makes me wonder if that deal had kind of already fallen through, or if they were planning, if Tim Burton had directed Batman 3, if Billy D. Williams would have played Two-Face in that one. Because obviously that changed and Tommy Lee Jones played him in Batman Forever.
What was the reason for Tim Burton not getting the third film? Or did he turn it down?
I'm not 100% sure, but I heard that it was, Warner Brothers was maybe not totally pleased with how dark the second film was. I think maybe they got some complaints from parents and stuff. And so they decided to kind of go with more of a more family-friendly version of Batman this time out, and they maybe thought Tim Burton was not necessarily... I would say creative differences probably...
Yeah, I think I remember hearing that too, so...
And he is credited as a producer on it, so I don't know if maybe they put him as a producer on the movie contractually. Maybe there was like a contractual obligation type thing. I don't know, but that would be my guess, is that Warner Brothers and Tim Burton kind of had maybe creative differences on what the third movie should be, and they got Joel Schumacher to direct it instead.
Thank God. Sarcasm. But I enjoyed Batman Forever.
Yeah, we'll save that one for another episode.
So
you were talking about Jack Napier,
right? I liked. Well, first of all, Jack Nicholson. I love his performance of Jack Napier, the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
Did a great job. It was interesting though, and I've seen the movie again since I've seen The Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, watching it this time, it was kind of interesting watching him act and realizing that he had nothing to go on. Except for the old TV show.
Cesar Romero as Joker, right. Well, I mean, I'm assuming, other than the comics, you're right. He knew that he wasn't going to play it like Cesar Romero. But he probably, I'm hoping he did some research with the comics and kind of figured out his character Joker from those.
Right. He does a great job playing a lunatic, that's for sure. And he's definitely the most classic Joker that I think we'll ever get.
I agree. Like the closest to the comics, you would say?
Right. Or just where Joker really came from. The Joker, everything, I was thinking about this too, everything that we have of Batman today would not have come to fruition if this movie hadn't been made.
I agree with that.
Even though they've gone and, they've done different things with Batman, and he is a much different Batman than the 89 Batman. And that's another thing I picked up on, was how different this Batman was.
Right.
But the Joker, we wouldn't have, I don't think the Joker, the status of the Joker, of how likable of a villain he is to, the fans, if it had not been for this movie. Would Batman be wearing gray still?
Well, I think he might. I mean, I think Batman always wore blue and gray, but now Batman in comics now, his comic is black and gray.
Right.
So I wonder if black really would have been integrated into his costume if it hadn't been for this movie.
Right.
I mean, the movie versions of Batman have always been a black rubber suit, basically.
Always. Yeah.
And so...
And I would expect that'll continue.
I expect that'll continue as well. I mean, I just don't see... Unless they do something similar to Batman from the Arkham Asylum games, I don't see it really changing. But you're right. I don't think that would have even really been... It seems so normal to us now. We expect to see Batman in a black rubber suit in a movie.
Right.
And before this movie, before the 1989 Batman came out, they had never seen that before. They had only really ever seen Batman in a blue and gray suit.
Right. And I wonder what that was like.
Well, I know. I was thinking that while I was watching this movie today, too. I was thinking, it's too bad I can't go back in time with the internet to see like what fans were saying about this movie
right.
in 89. It's so easy now for us to hear fans love or hate for something so quickly now with the internet.
Right.
You get a taste for what people are thinking so easily now. But back then, I wonder how it was all, I guess, dependent on box office, I suppose, whether or not somebody liked it or not. But I wish I could go to maybe like a comic book store back in 1989 after the movie came out and just listen to some comic book fans and see what they had to say about it.
Yeah, I remember, I think, according to my dad, that it was talked about well. It had good reviews. It was a very well-received movie. And then another thing about the influence is Tim Burton went on to do the animation, Batman animated series.
Did Tim Burton have anything to do with that?
Yeah. I think he was
Other than
producer.
Being inspired by... Was he a producer? I had no idea.
I think he was the producer, and Danny Elfman's music's in it.
Sure, I remember that. The score was... I mean, I knew the animated series was kind of inspired by the first two movies, but I did not know that Tim Burton was a producer. I'm actually looking that up.
Me too.
But I don't think we would have had that animated series, which was incredible, if it hadn't been for this movie.
Exactly. And that's my point, is that cartoon had a ton of influence over the Batman that we have today as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Which that cartoon wouldn't have existed if it had not been for this movie. Okay, it looks like I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't think Tim Burton was a producer on that. I think it was just really influenced by his movies.
All right.
Especially in the design of certain characters. Like I know in the first run of the animated series, the Penguin definitely had a similar look to the Penguin of Batman Returns.
And, I mean, I think Mark Hamill a little bit is influenced by Jack Nicholson's voice. Like, especially his laugh.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear him fall at the end, it sounds like Mark Hamill.
Mm.
So, this movie is the cornerstone of Batman, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, especially for people our age who were children when this movie came out.
Well, I'm just talking about the Batman that we have, the Batman that we will continue to have, was all built on this. Okay,
sure. In terms of movies.
Well, I think even the movies have gone on to influence the Batman universe.
That's true, and I guess even the animated series, which was inspired by a movie, has gone on to inspire... Because, I mean, Harley Quinn now is in the comics, and she's in the video games, and she was created in that animated series, so...
What about Clayface?
Clayface was in the comics before that. Yeah, okay. He's been around for a long time. One of the bad things about seeing this as a kid and not knowing a whole lot about Batman is that... And I have to kind of preface this by saying I didn't really read comics a whole lot as a kid. I purchased the occasional comic book at the grocery store, so I didn't grow up really reading comics as much as I would have maybe liked. But as a kid seeing this movie, I kind of took everything as fact in this film in terms of Batman canon. So for a long time, I thought Jack Napier was Joker. I always thought Joker...
Me too.
The origin of Joker was true to the comics in this movie, and then it wasn't until much later that I found out that Joker's real identity is unknown.
Right. Which I actually like better.
Yeah, I do too. There's a few comics that kind of... One in particular that stands out is Alan Moore's The Killing Joke, and they give him kind of an origin story in that comic book. So there are some origin stories out there, but there's nothing that's really considered a true origin.
Right.
In the beginning of the movie, we get to see Batman with those thugs, and that's kind of our first glimpse at Batman. And then we really don't get to see Batman in action until the Axis Chemicals scene, which is also kind of the moment where Jack Napier falls in the chemicals and essentially becomes the Joker. But that's when we really get to see his kind of stealth mode, if you will, kind of stalking the criminals, and he does a lot of the showing up, disappearing that he's kind of become known for. And so that was a really fun scene to see, just watching Batman kind of do his thing. And that's also I'm going to let you in on how dumb of a kid I was. The moment where he kind of realizes he's trapped and he throws down the smoke pellet and then uses his grappling gun to pull himself up. Mm-hmm. There's a shadow cast off of his boots. And it really looked to me as a kid that he had, like, rocket boots. And I thought that he was, like, soaring up. And I was like, whoa.
You know, now that you mentioned that, I thought he was flying away also. But not that he could fly like Superman. It was just Batman has gadgets that let him fly. Right. Not rocket boots, though.
Right. It really, for the longest time, not the longest time. I'm sure I realized it when I got a little older, but
last year,
especially when I was a kid, I thought he had rocket boots.
Yeah.
One of the things I wrote down about that scene was Batman tries to save Jack Napier from falling into the chemicals, and then he can't hold on to him, and he falls.
Does Batman? And after that, does Bruce Wayne know at this point that Jack Napier killed his parents?
No, not yet. Bruce Wayne doesn't know until the scene in Kim Basinger's apartment.
That's right.
In Vicky Vale's apartment.
Because of the line he says.
Right. So, at this point, Bruce Wayne has no idea who killed his parents. He knows what they look like. He remembers what they said. But that's it. But anyway, Batman drops Jack Napier, and Gordon says that he was like, we had him. He was mad that Batman dropped him. And this time around, I've never really paid attention to it, but this time around I thought, did you really just almost have him? Because 2 seconds ago you had a gun to your head. I don't really consider that close to an arrest.
That's right.
So I really don't know if Gordon was correct. Gordon's a little delusional, I think, in that sense.
Eggard, think about the future.
Yeah. We were this close. He killed one of my men, but we were this close to arresting him.
Hey, but before that scene, when they're sitting down going over the plans, and
in Grissom's office,
right?
Carl Grissom, played by Jack Palance.
He pulls out. He's going through his cards, and then the girl comes up to the elevator, and he turns the card, and it's the Joker card.
Yeah, it's got the bullet hole in it, right?
Is that what it is? I was going to ask. That has a hole in it, right?
I've always just assumed it was a bullet hole, but I guess I don't really know.
I always thought there was a hole there. So
there is a hole in the card for sure.
Yeah,
but like I said, I've always just assumed it was a bullet hole.
I never thought of.
They never really
hole.
said.
That's really cool. Let's keep it like that.
Okay. I'd like to think that it's his lucky deck and that he had it on him and he got shot and the bullet got stopped by the deck of cards.
Nice.
I'm just making this all up.
He does. But Jack Palance does call it his lucky deck.
His lucky deck. Yeah. Maybe there's some sort of backstory to his deck of cards that didn't end up in the movie.
Huh.
I'm actually thinking about watching this movie again, maybe tonight, with the commentary by Tim Burton, because I've yet to do that, and it'd be very interesting to hear what he has to say about this film.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to totally skip over the card question.
Probably. He probably won't even mention
You're going to be on the edge of your seat.
Uh-huh. This is the part. Nothing.
After the after he gets dunked in the chemicals, does it show him getting surgery?
It shows him in post-surgery. He's getting his bandages taken off, so I don't know how long he's been in surgery. Has he been there for a few days? It's really kind of unclear. But the thing I noticed this time around is that his clothes are already purple and orange. So I wonder if the chemicals, like, dyed his suit.
Well, his suit was purple before.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. When he's in the chair, when they're doing the plans, his suit's purple.
But it wasn't bright purple, was it?
It was, you're probably right. It was probably a different purple,
Maybe
but...
kind of a darker shade of purple.
Probably.
So maybe the chemicals really brought out... It just, like, highlighted it.
It put a smile on his face.
Well, that's... Yeah. Hey. Is there anything about this movie that you don't like?
I would have said no before I rewatched it last night.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I think the biggest thing that I had, it's not that I don't like it, it's just I could tell a lot more that it was Hollywood.
Right. Maybe influenced by maybe he's getting like some studio pressure or something to add something?
No. I'm just talking about, you could tell they were on sets.
Oh, I got you, sure.
You could almost just envision the carts going on in the background and the director sitting in his chair.
Right. Speaking on that note, though, I will say that while I love the last three Batmans we got and how they were all shot on location in Chicago and Pittsburgh and whatnot, I really like the Gotham City that was created for the Tim Burton movies.
And you
can kind of tell that they're on set. You can tell they're they're on the Warner Brothers backlot probably. But I love the look of this Gotham City with like the statues and the kind of the big, the old kind of old, but I don't even know how you describe it. Like the look of it,
noir.
It has like kind of an antique feel, but it also has a very modern, almost sci-fi kind of feel to it.
Right.
I really like it. I think it's really cool. But like you said, you can tell that they are.
Well, that's something I don't have a problem with. And what's interesting, I didn't realize how fantasy that city looked until probably a few years ago. Mm-hmm. I mean, it does not look like a city that we would ever see.
No.
And that's something else I was going to bring up, too, is the movie dated? And you could say it's dated, but I think the fact that the world that they're living in is set up the way it is, you don't really put it in our present.
Right.
So it gets by with it.
I agree. It's dated only to me in the sense that some of the effects are not. It's like the film itself is a little dated, not necessarily
right.
Like it's if that makes sense. Like I was talking about with the kind of the animated shadow in the beginning,
right?
And even sometimes when you see the Batmobile driving fast, you can kind of tell that the film was sped up a little bit to make it look even faster.
Right.
It's just dated in its technology, I guess, a little bit.
Also,
more so than anything
when
else.
the Joker falls, it's like a drawing.
Right. I think one of my only main maybe complaints about the film is I feel like the whole kind of love story between Vicky Vale and Bruce Wayne feels just a tiny bit forced. And that's, I think, again, due to just knowing kind of more about Batman now as an adult. I just don't really see Bruce Wayne kind of pursuing a relationship, especially at this point in his career as Batman, which is essentially just started.
Right.
It seems like maybe he almost realizes that because they date or they go on a date, and then he tells her that he's going out of town for a few days. When really, I think he's just he's got some Batman business to tend to. And then after that, it seems like she just keeps stalking him, following him everywhere, wondering why he won't love her. And he's like, "Listen, lady, I'm Batman. Leave me alone." And so I feel like the whole Vicky Vale kind of storyline is a little off.
I felt like her acting was suffering a little bit more than I remembered too.
Oh, really? Maybe she's not as strong as you once thought.
Right. Well, I mean, I never really picked up on it, and there were just a couple things, just reactions she had that kind of annoyed me.
Mm-hmm.
Was there ever a Batwoman before the film?
I have no idea. I want to say there probably was in the comics, but but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a fairly recent addition to the comics in the 80s.
Actually, didn't
really
he have a
see-
helicopter?
He did have a helicopter in the 60s movie.
Yeah.
In the Adam West movie, he had a helicopter.
Yeah.
So it's possible he had a Batwing in the comics. I'm sure he probably did. I'm sure he had a Bat boat and a Batwing and all that stuff.
They had a motorcycle Robin would ride in the side. That was in the... You know, did you ever see the old animated one? That was based off
No.
the 60s?
No, I never did. I mean, I remember there was a cartoon show, but I don't remember like an animated movie.
That's what I meant. The TV show.
The cartoon show?
Yeah.
Like the New Adventures of Batman or something?
Right. I think he drives a motorcycle in that with a side compartment.
Okay.
So yeah, he has different vehicles. He probably had some kind of flying device, whether it be the helicopter or not.
Right.
But the Batwing was a good pick, and when he goes up
To the moon.
to the moon,
Dude, the Batwing in this movie is so cool. I love the Batwing in this movie. And I remember having that toy and flying it around my living room as a kid so often.
didn't it have like a handle on the bottom of it?
Yeah, it had almost like a gun handle
Right.
at the bottom of it, and it had a trigger. And the trigger, when you pulled the trigger, little pinchers came out that would like hold an action figure. It wasn't like scissors like in the movie. It didn't cut it couldn't cut anything. They were almost kind of bow shaped. So when it came out, you really could hold an action figure, but it couldn't do much else.
Right.
So you could fly around holding the Joker at the front, which would be terrifying for the Joker, really, just to be like attached to the front of an airplane and flown around. But it was a sweet toy.
I picked up something with the Batwing this time. When it shows like a close up of him doing the switches for the torpedoes, under one of the switches, it says volume.
Oh, really?
I want these to be loud rockets.
Or I was thinking, I love the idea of Batman just flying around his Batwing, listening to the radio or something. One of the things I wrote down watching the movie this time is when they get to the Batcave and she steps out of the car. They both get out of the car and Batman goes over to this giant light switch. And it's not until he gets over there that he tells her to be careful. And he turns on the lights and she's standing right on the edge of this like giant cliff, basically, where he parks his car. And I was like, I'm glad Batman said be careful then and not when they first got out of the car. Like, what if she had taken one more step and plummeted to her death?
It's Batman.
He's like,
It's Batman. He would have gotten her.
That's very true. He would have just jumped down there.
Yeah.
He was probably hoping for it.
I noticed when they're driving to the Batcave, she's like kind of getting close, and he's kind of twitching his head, like, quit looking at me. And then
He doesn't want it, yeah.
And then right before they get to the secret entrance, she gets really close, and he hits a button, and
Yeah.
a light turns on beside him and blinds her.
Yeah.
I'd never noticed that before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a good moment, yeah. She gets a little too close, and she might be able to tell that he's Bruce Wayne, so... I like that he had the forethought to put that light in this Batmobile.
Well, he does have two seats. So
That's very true.
He knows
I might have a passenger one day who might get a little too close to me.
Right.
He probably tested out on Alfred. Does it need to be brighter? Alfred's like, I'm really getting tired of this, sir.
So the reveal of the Joker, I love the reveal of the Joker. That you, Sugar Bubs? Yeah, it's me, Sugar Bubs. And comes out of the shadows.
He's in the shadows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slowly walking towards him, and then he comes out. You see his face in the light, and he says, "You can call me Joker."
Jack is dead, my friend. And you could see I'm a lot happier. Yeah, that's a great introduction to the character. You can't help but compare it to the introduction of the Joker from The Dark Knight, which is just so incredible, where he takes off the mask and says that line. But this movie, they're both excellent introductions, and this movie has a very menacing. Then right after he says that, he kills the guy.
Yeah, just
Shoots
comes
him
and
dead,
takes over,
shoots him down.
sits down in his chair.
Yeah.
Oh, what a day!
It's very Joker-like. He nailed it. You're absolutely right. That is a classic Joker
Yeah.
that Jack Nicholson created.
If you ever had to erase any other renditions of the Joker, I think I would keep, as much as I love Heath Ledger's, and I think it was a better performance actor-wise. I think I would keep Jack Nicholson's.
That's a tough call. I hope no one ever comes to me and says you have to erase all renditions of the Joker but one. But oh man, I don't even want to say. I think I would keep Heath Ledger, but I don't know. I mean, they're both so good, but they're both so different.
Right, they are. And thank God they both exist, because they're both
right.
wonderful.
Exactly.
I liked the reaction too of when he goes and he puts on the makeup. The next scene when he's telling the guys that Grissom's gone, he doesn't tell them that he's dead.
No, he says he's just gone away.
Yeah.
Well, I think if he had told him he had killed Grissom, I think they would have turned on him.
Well, I'm not saying that, but maybe, he slipped on a banana peel or something. Oh, okay. But, and he has on his makeup. I like the line, what's that stupid grin on your face? Life's been good to me. That's it. The scenes, every scene in this movie is so enjoyable to watch.
Mm-hmm.
You remember every one of them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's not a drunk. Absolutely. We've touched on it a little bit already, but I would like to mention Danny Elfman's brilliant score. It's hard for me to think of Batman and not hear this music in my head. As much as I love Hans Zimmer's music, and James Newton Howard, I should say, for the Batman movies,
sure.
the new Batman movies, Danny Elfman's score, and I think part of that is due to the fact that they used it in the animated series. So it's like whenever we saw Batman as children, it was like we had that music playing.
True, but I will say this: you can't really understate how good that score is.
Oh, absolutely.
Sitting down last night, I don't think I can watch that movie without getting goosebumps during that entire opening sequence going through the bat symbol.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
the opening credits, which really isn't all that exciting.
Right, it's so boring, but the music just you don't fast forward through that ever.
No, you don't. I don't think I ever have. I think that's very true, and I think it's all because of the music.
The music, and then, of course, at the end when you're zooming out and you see that you've been going through the bat symbol the entire time.
Right. Another thing about that, for the longest time, and I have no idea why I thought this, I thought that was... You know how the Batmobile's wheels have the bat signal right there?
Right.
I always assumed that we were just like inside the wheel. And when it zoomed out, we were just looking at like the Batmobile's wheel. I don't know why I thought that. Again, it was me being a stupid kid, but
no, it's chiseled in the city, Justin, in the marble, in the concrete.
Okay, it is Gotham City. Gotham City is in the outline of a big bat signal. Gotcha. He was flying over it one day, and he was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool. I'll be Batman." I gotcha. It all makes perfect sense now.
So, the last scene in the movie is the cathedral. The Joker shoots down the Batwing with that amazing gun.
Gigantic gun, yeah.
After he shoots Bob.
Which is sad. Bob's his right-hand man.
Bob did not tell him about the Batwing.
It's number one. That's very true. But
why didn't somebody tell me he had one of those things?
That's a good moment, too, for the Joker, because it really shows you that he... Just kind of how ruthless he is.
Yeah.
You know? He'll kill even his best friend.
He's insane, and he's also he doesn't care about anyone else. So, he takes Vicky Vale up to the cathedral. 5 minutes. Better make that 10. I think it took longer than 10 minutes.
I'm sure it probably did. So that means that helicopter guy was way late.
Yeah, he was. But the Joker, he was happy he was there. The bell falls through the thing.
Well, he pours acid. He takes his little acid flower. He pours acid on like the bolts, and so it eats away at the bolts, and the bell falls from down the bell tower down.
I loved the scene after that when Gordon and then the police are like looking at it. It falls, and then they go up there and they're touching it. Then all of a sudden, Gordon goes, "All right, let's go." They just walk away.
Let's find a different way. There's obviously no way we can get up
There's a big hole where they could have climbed up in the top. Oh, and also Gordon tries to push the bell out of the doorway by himself, and then it cuts to a shot, and there's 2 other police officers just standing there watching him.
Like, sir, that's not going to work, sir.
But if they had at least tried,
right.
Maybe.
That would have been great if he turned around and he's like, thanks for helping, guys. Speaking of Gordon, not to derail things here, but speaking of Gordon, I wonder if there was maybe kind of a little bit of an outcry during when this movie came out that Gordon was not a big enough role in the film. Because he and Batman really are not... I mean, granted, it's establishing maybe that kind of relationship with the police department in this film, but Commissioner Gordon just doesn't seem to be the Commissioner Gordon that we now know. He's not as involved, it seems like, in
True.
Batman's...
He was pretty involved in the 60s show.
Right.
And then they made him really involved, of course, in the animated series.
Right. And he's very involved, obviously, in the Nolan universe as well.
Was he more involved in Batman Returns?
Not really. There's a small... Like, it's basically just in the beginning of the movie. He has actually one of my least favorite lines in that movie. And it's after Batman beats up, like, all the circus performers. Gordon comes up to him and goes, thanks for saving the day, Batman. And I've always hated that line. But, I mean, he talks to Batman a little bit in that scene, and then it doesn't really seem like he's really there throughout the rest of the movie.
I got you. It was kind of a cameo.
Pretty much. I mean, I think he might show up here and there later, but that relationship with Batman is not there in those 2 movies.
Yeah. Was Gordon even in? Not. Who plays Gordon, by the way?
His name's Pat Hingle, I believe.
Was the character Gordon even in Batman Forever?
He was. I remember him in the beginning because Batman shows up to the Two-Face robbery, and Gordon is the one who introduces Batman to Chase Meridian, played by Nicole Kidman.
I'm sure I'd recognize Gordon if I saw him in that movie, but I cannot put a face to him right now.
Well, it's the same actor that played him in this movie.
It is?
Yeah, Commissioner Gordon is played by Pat Hingle in all 4 movies, and Alfred is played by the same guy in all 4 movies as well.
That's true. I forgot about Alfred. I was going to say, well, that means it's connected, but yeah, Alfred was in all of them, so they were definitely connected.
It's supposed to be, I think, the same universe,
right,
even though they're totally different.
Right. After the fight with the Joker, and they're up at the top of the cathedral, and they're hanging off, Vicky Vale and Batman are hanging off, and the Joker's just, like, laughing,
right,
trying to kick their feet off, or their hands.
Right. Trying to kill them.
And for the first time, I think I really thought about this, like, I realized how much danger Gotham would have been in if he had been able to succeed in killing Batman there.
Yeah.
I mean, if Batman was having so much trouble, obviously, without Batman, they would have had no chance. And what would have happened to Gotham City if Batman was not there?
He would have burned it to the ground, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Over time.
That just really instilled in me how much that scene made me realize Batman is a superhero. He's a good one. You feel very protected when he's on your side.
Sure, absolutely. And that's evident by the very last scene. I mean, it's interesting to me that in this movie he's not considered an outlaw by the end, you know? He's accepted and considered a friend by everyone, by Harvey Dent, the district attorney, right, by Commissioner Gordon.
He gave us the signal. Mayor.
Yeah. I mean, they're happy to have Batman on their side. And I think that's because in this universe, the police, I mean, I guess they just couldn't get it done by themselves. And maybe they knew that. And so with Batman, they know that they have a chance.
Right. Plus, he's fighting with them. He's fighting crime.
He's on their side.
Right. At least for the time being.
But it's just, I mean, in the Nolan, not to always compare this movie to the Nolan universe, but it's just, you know, those movies are more recent, and so I always think about kids who are growing up now, you know, like kids in their, you know, who were like 8 or 9 when these movies came out, probably think about the Nolan Batman movies as like their Batman movies. But in those movies, Batman, even though Commissioner Gordon is on his side, is still considered a vigilante. And even Gordon, says publicly that they'll arrest him on sight when they see him, but he knows that they won't. So he's still considered kind of a vigilante and an outlaw, and he's not really considered to be a friend, except for the people that actually kind of know him.
Right.
But in this movie, they're just like, yep, we got Batman. We're cool. And so I thought that was interesting.
And then it pans up with first Vicky Vale's getting in the car, and I remember thinking, oh, he really cared about you. You're in the next movie, aren't you?
And then she wasn't.
Right.
But the movie ends on such an iconic shot of him standing on the edge, on the edge of a building with the bat signal in the background. The wind is blowing his cape. I mean, it's perfect. The movie ends so perfectly.
I think the thing that really strikes that scene is the music as it's panning up.
Yeah, Danny Elfman again knocks it out of the park.
Insane. So, obviously, we both really liked it. It's a part of my childhood, much like the same ballpark as Ghostbusters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Back to the Future for me.
I didn't watch Back to the Future until a little later, but I can definitely see that. After watching it, I give Batman a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I would give it an A. Not quite an A+, but pretty close.
I think my grade has changed a little bit since I was younger. And even more recently. As a fan, I would definitely have to give this movie a 9 out of 10. But I think if I'm actually rating the movie as a movie itself, I'd probably go to an 8.5 out of 10.
So it's not a significant change. It's not a big drop, but you just would take a few. If you could remove the love you have for it as a Batman fan and the memories you have of it as watching it as a child, you would give it a little bit lower of a grade. I can understand that. I think my grade would be an A. I think before, I would say, growing up, I would have given it an A+. And I might have even given it an A+ even before Christopher Nolan's Batman movies came out.
Right, I think in my college years, I had it rated at 5 stars.
Yeah. So I would probably say it's gone down just a little bit, but not because... I think it's the same reason for you. Just as I'm judging it now, I'm judging the film by itself now, not trying to bring all the Batman fandom to it, but I still love it. As a fan, I might give it an A+, but...
Right. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
I don't know how this generation of kids would feel about it.
Have your kids seen it?
I don't think so.
Well, you mentioned Michael that saw it last night?
They were in the room when the title sequence was going on, but they were going to bed.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Is it too... Would you show it... Is it too dark for them to see right now?
No, actually, I wanted Luke to watch it with me last night, but he had to go to bed for school.
Well, that'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to hear what they think about it. Because you're right, I haven't thought about that.
But definitely when it came out, 9.5. I mean,
right.
It was great.
Right. If you agree or disagree with us, feel free to let us know. You can check out www.cinemaheroes.com. You can email us, justin@cinemaheroes.com or john@cinemaheroes.com. You can throw us a line at Twitter, @cinemaheroes, or check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/SM and SM podcast. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzel.
Thanks for listening.